There's a photograph on my desk. It shows a woman, my wife, Emily, laughing with the sun in her hair. I know this is Emily. I know this photo is from the day we got engaged. I know that in that moment I was the happiest man alive. I know all these facts, but when I look at her face, I feel nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's just a collection of features. Eyes, a nose, lips, like a diagram from an anatomy textbook. The horror isn't that I don't remember her. The horror is that I remember everything, but the very essence of the memory, its emotional core, has been burned away. And it all started the day I found the Nemazny Institute. I used to be a ghost hunter, not the kind that rattles chains, but the ghosts of memory left behind in abandoned places. I'm a photographer. My passion was the forgotten corners of America, rusting motels on Route 66, empty prairie schools, decommissioned military bases. Every place told a story. But Nemazny wasn't just a story. It was a myth. I stumbled upon a mention of it in an online archive of declassified government documents from the 70s. A footnote in a report on mind control programs mentioned a peripheral private project, the Nemazny Institute for Perception Correction, which was allegedly engaged in unconventional methods for treating post-traumatic stress in veterans. The funding was private, the location classified. There was no other information. That was enough to make me obsessed. The search took 6 months. I dug through old property maps, searched for indirect clues, and finally, I found it. A plot of land in the Oregon forests, purchased in 1972 by a shell corporation and abandoned in 1985. No road signs, no marks on any map. The drive there was a nightmare in itself, an overgrown service road that scraped the sides of my Jeep with its branches. And then, in the middle of a pristine forest, I saw it. The building was a shock. Not ruins, not a decrepit mansion, but a monument of cold, brutalist architecture. Gray concrete and dark glass, as if a piece of a hostile city had been cut out and dropped into the heart of nature. Not a single broken window, not a single piece of graffiti. The heavy glass front door was unlocked. The air inside was stale but clean, with the faint, sterile smell of ozone and antiseptic. Everything was coated in a thin, even layer of dust. The place didn't feel abandoned, but paused. The hallways were long and identical, the office doors without nameplates. Some rooms held strange chairs surrounded on all sides by mirrors. Others contained complex electronic equipment with hundreds of dials and reel-to-reel tape machines. I found what must have been the director's office, Dr. Alistair Finch's. On a massive teak desk lay a leather-bound journal. I opened it to a random page. The handwriting was calligraphically precise, almost surgical, and the very first sentence I read froze the blood in my veins more than any darkness or sudden noise ever could. It read, "Subject number 7 is exhibiting progressive symptoms of semantic decay. The link between the object and its meaning has been successfully severed." I sat in the absolute silence, in the chair of a man named Alistair Finch, and reread that sentence over and over. Semantic decay. The link between the object and its meaning has been severed. This wasn't the insane scrawling of a mad scientist. It was written with cold, academic precision. I flipped back several pages and began to read from the beginning. What I read over the next few hours was far more terrifying than any ghost story. Finch's journal wasn't a confession. It was a methodical, scientific report on a descent into hell. His theory stated that traumatic memories weren't just images in the mind. They were powerful emotional charges tied to specific triggers: a face, a sound, a smell.
His goal was not to erase the memory, but to amputate its emotional component. He wanted to learn how to separate the what from the what it means. I read the description of an experiment on a Vietnam veteran suffering from severe PTSD. Subject number 4 was shown a photograph of his squad, taken the day before an ambush in which he was the sole survivor. At the beginning of the session, the subject exhibited the standard reaction: accelerated heart rate, perspiration, panic. After 3 cycles of perception correction in the mirror room, the reaction changed. The subject looked at the photo without emotion. He could name all of his comrades, but described them as strangers in military uniform. When I asked him what he felt looking at this photo, he replied, "Nothing. It's just paper with an image on it." I turned the page with a trembling finger. Finch described this as a success. He hadn't cured the trauma. He had burned out the man's soul so that he could no longer feel pain. And not just pain. Joy, love, grief, all of it, according to his theory, was just a side effect of semantic links. To get rid of one, you had to destroy them all. I read on, forgetting the time, forgetting where I was. The strange, even glow of the fluorescent lights never changed, unlike the sun outside the window. There was a faint, low-frequency hum in the building. Something felt more in your bones than with your ears. I read about subject number 7, a woman with a paralyzing fear of enclosed spaces. After her treatment, she could sit in a closet for hours, but when she was shown a picture of her young son, she asked, "Who is this boy?" She knew she had a son, but she didn't recognize his face. The link was severed. At one point, I glanced down at my own hand resting on the desk. My wedding ring glinted on my finger. For a moment, just one terrible moment, it ceased to be a symbol of my love for Emily. It was just a round piece of gold, a cold metal, devoid of any meaning. I snatched my hand back as if I'd been burned. My heart hammered against my ribs. It's just my imagination, I told myself, an effect of reading these grim entries in this oppressive environment. I looked out the window. The sun was already setting, painting the treetops a blood red. I had been sitting here for almost 6 hours. A sudden, animal fear seized me. Not a fear of the building, but a fear of what it did to the mind. I slammed the journal shut, stuffed it into my backpack. It was too important as evidence to leave behind, and ran for the exit. The fresh, damp forest air hit my face like a slap. I breathed it in greedily, trying to purge the sterile dust of the institute from my lungs. I thought I had escaped. I thought I had carried out the most terrifying story of my life. I didn't yet know that you don't have to carry the most important things out of a place like that. They seep into you all on their own.
For the first few days, everything seemed normal. I came home, I hugged Emily, and when I did, I felt warmth, love, and relief. I was safe. I had nightmares about mirror rooms and blank faces, but that was to be expected. I decided I needed time to process what I'd seen and put Finch's journal away. I tried to live my normal life, but something was broken. Something had subtly changed. It started with small things. I would brew my favorite morning coffee, and its aroma no longer brought me the usual comfort. It was just the smell of burnt beans. Then I listened to the song that Emily and I first danced to. I remembered that night in perfect detail, but the music no longer gave me butterflies in my stomach. It was just a collection of sounds, a sequence of notes. I blamed it on stress, on fatigue. I was lying to myself. And then came that evening. We were sitting at dinner. Emily was talking about her day at work, laughing. I looked at her and suddenly realized I was looking at a stranger. I could see her face,
but I couldn't see her. The movement of her lips, the curve of her eyebrows, the wrinkles by her eyes that I had loved so much, it all became a meaningless set of physical attributes. The emotional connection, that invisible thread that linked her image in my mind to the feeling of love, was stretched to its breaking point, about to snap. I felt a wave of nausea, mumbled something about a headache, and left the table. I locked myself in the bathroom and looked in the mirror. My own reflection was a stranger's. I could see the fear in my eyes, but I couldn't feel it. I just knew I was supposed to be feeling it. Semantic decay. It wasn't a sudden event. It was a slow, quiet poison I had been breathing in at that institute. The sound, the light, the very architecture Finch had designed. It was all an instrument that slowly, surely dismantled the foundations of my perception. And the journal, which I had read for hours, was the final push. It didn't just describe the process, it initiated it in me. Since that day, my life has been a hell that words cannot describe. I am an actor, playing the role of myself. Every morning, I get up and tell Emily I love her, because I know it's what I'm supposed to do. I kiss her, because it's the correct action for the situation. I hug her when she cries, because that is the social norm. But inside, there is an emptiness, a scorched desert. I remember every one of our dates, every fight, every joy, but it's all like reading lines from someone else's biography. I've tried to get help. I went to a therapist. How could I explain it to him? Doctor, I love my wife, but I feel nothing for her. He diagnosed me with depression and prescribed antidepressants. They didn't help. How can a pill fix something that was broken on such a fundamental level? I can't do photography anymore. When I look through the lens, I only see shapes and colors. The beauty of a sunset is no more meaningful to me than the pattern of cracks in the pavement. My gift, my passion, my ability to see the story in abandoned places, it's all gone, because stories are made of emotion, and I have none left. Sometimes I take out Finch's journal. I read it, and I understand that he wasn't mad. He was a genius. He achieved his goal. He created a weapon that doesn't kill the body, but erases the personality, leaving only an empty shell capable of imitating life. The Mnemosyne Institute was never abandoned. It's still operational. Its only employee is me, and its final experiment is ongoing.